Hello, everybody. Welcome. Halos of the Infield. Fernando, a.k.a. the Lone Star Halo. We're joined here by Todd Fox and a favorite of ours, a favorite of our audience, Frankie Karzarian, here to talk Angels baseball. All that and more coming up next.
Hey, you are now listening or watching the Halos in the Infield podcast, sponsored in part by Noble L Works over on 1621 South Sinclair, where you can get discounts by just mentioning HITI, Halos in the Infield. Drink discounts on us, baby. And also by 714 Tickets, 714 Tickets. The price you see is the price you get, and you also get 10% additionally off in the Apply Now code once you order your tickets just by mentioning HITI, Halos in the Infield. Now enjoy the show.
In the land of last shores, I play my part with the Halos in the infield. I'll make my mark. I'm the Lone Star Halo, shining bright tonight. In a sea of rangers, I'll stand and fight with the Halos in the outfield under stadium lights. From Texas to Anaheim, we'll soar to new heights. We'll soar to new heights.
Once again, welcome, everybody. We are here joined by Frankie Karzarian of TNA, or as his header says, the king of TNA. Frankie, thanks for joining us again for what's kind of become a yearly check-in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, thanks for having me. It's always my pleasure to talk baseball with you gentlemen. And, wish we were talking about a more productive team, but, here we are. We're fans.
Hey, this isn't our first rodeo as Angels fans. When was the last time we were able to talk about a legitimately good Angels season?
I mean, I was on another show the other day and I was talking about it. Those years that followed the series, that was still for about a decade an exciting team.
Yeah.
They were always at least in the mix. They were, if they weren't, a wild card contender, they were actually winning the pennant, or they were in the mix. And coming into this season, I really didn't have any expectations, but I just wanted them to be competitive. Like, if they're 5-6 games out, cool. That's kind of all I was expecting. And here we are, and we're not even doing that. So yeah, but it's been a while since they've been like, regularly good and regularly in the hunt.
Yeah, Todd and I have talked multiple times on this podcast about how this year the only thing we wanted to see was the young guys take a step forward, that young core. And even that, with that being the only expectation we have, we've fallen short of that. I mean, Zach Neto has shown flashes, but he struggled. Nolan Shanuel started off the year really rough, kind of gotten a little bit better. Once his on-base streak ended, he was kind of out of it for a while.
Yeah.
Ohapi started off hot, and he's kind of tailed off a little bit. Over the last week, he's improved. But where are you mentally on these young guys? What are you liking and not liking so far?
Yeah, I mean, of those guys you mentioned, the one guy I think that has potential to be like a real leader, and I think he will develop, and I think he's going to develop, at a quicker rate than the others, is Ohapi. Especially playing the catcher position. He's the quarterback of the team essentially, and I think he's got the the leadership skills, and he's in my opinion he's been one of the most consistent. Yeah, he started off hot and he's kind of squandered, but yeah, the last couple weeks he's at least consistently been hitting. And then you look at a guy like Mickey Moniak, who like last year looked promising, and boy, this year just cannot get it together at the plate. Like, I don't remember the last time, I watched him and he didn't fly out. I think he's batting somewhere in the low 165s. And it just, I'm glad to see Pilar in the lineup. And, honestly, if, he's, like I said, I didn't have Kevin Pilar being the stud of the team on my bingo card this year, but here we are. But, like Shonowell, he's hit and miss. He's, he had that hot on base streak. And then he kind of squandered, but he's, kind of turning it around. Like the potential is there, but like who's going to break out and who's going to, develop and who's going to like become a player?
Correct. We got too many easy outs on this team right now.
Mm.
What are your thoughts, Frankie, on like a Matt Theis? He's only really had 64 at bats this year. There's a couple guys that we've signed late that have more at bats than him. Do you think he's not getting enough playing time? Like, would you be good with maybe DHing O'Hoppe or teaching him first and then playing, Theis behind the plate to give him a break every now and then?
Yeah, I mean, maybe I honestly just haven't seen enough of him. I think he needs to get the reps,
Yeah.
and he's just not getting those up here. I know he has like some pop in his bat. He hits the ball hard. His exit velocity is usually good even when he flies out. But yeah, he's just not getting the playing time. Like they've kind of hitched their wagon to O'Hoppe, and they bring Theis in as a pincher. I don't know. I mean, at this point, at this point of the season, why not try him out as a DH? I mean, what's the worst that could happen? Maybe if at least he gets some reps at the plate, and he can maybe give him a week, 10 days to prove that he's, that he can succeed or not on his own. But
sink or swim.
Something, sink or swim. That's it. Something. At this point, I think they're just kind of throwing crap at the wall and seeing what sticks anyway. So, I mean, you may as well take that approach with him.
Yeah, because Stefanik is, since we were waiting for him to get healthy and come up, and we all know that he's a kind of hitter that Ron Washington kind of wants, that high on base kind of guy. He's not looking for power. He's just looking to get on any way he can. And then Miguel Sano was kind of that dude too. He kind of like got away from his home run hitting. We're waiting for him to come back. And
I forget Sano's on this team.
Yeah. I mean, after the whole heating incident, I'm just hoping that those three players like Theis, Sano, and Stefanik can help out this team. Because like you brought up, guys like O'Hoppe just aren't hitting. Other guys are struggling. And I think having those guys as backups, or at least guys you could start every now and then, could spark this really anemic offense.
Yeah, I use that word a lot, anemic. That's like the best word to describe the team. I'm going back to that. Like nobody wants Joe Adele to succeed more than I do. Like I'm a big fan of that guy. And
yep,
same thing. There's flashes of like just that speed and that power, but then there's the base running errors and the fielding blunders, and just like, man, he's like a really like a Jekyll and Hyde type player.
Sure is.
He sometimes seems like, wow, this is going to be the guy. And then sometimes like, ooh, no, this dude's not ready. But like, I don't know, man. I guess the jury's still out. Yeah, I agree with what you said about all that. But yeah, this like, look, I just like to watch baseball and be entertained. And
Absolutely.
God, these games sometimes they just get so
they ruin your night.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, that's our lot in life. We're Angels fans, through the good times and the bad, through better or for worse.
Well, one quick question on Adele, though. Maybe if his hitting never comes around, do you think you can persuade him to be your tag team partner? Because that guy's built. I'm just saying.
Yeah, he's got good size and shape to him. If he doesn't, fall down running the ropes, like he does, or overrun the ropes like he does the bases, maybe we could talk. But he's definitely like one of these. Like he's a super athlete. He's jacked.
Yeah.
He's great shape. He's strong. He's quick. He's agile.
I don't know if you ever see those off-season videos. You know what I mean? They always show him like working out, and he's like jumping on like 6 or 7 mats stacked up high. And I'm like, hey, that's great, but can you catch a baseball this year? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. Sometimes that just doesn't translate. Like even in my industry, I know some guys that are incredible athletes, like could do amazing things that I could never even attempt. But, they just don't have that aptitude for the game of pro wrestling. And, I'm not saying Joe Adele doesn't, because he's obviously made it very far in his career. But, if he could just put all that together, then maybe we could get something out of him. But like, we're still kind of like, is the Joe Adele project working? We're still kind of in that holding pattern. And I don't know, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, sports is so weird in the sense of there's some people who just don't look the part, but they play the part. And then, I'm sure in the world of pro wrestling, it's the same thing. I mean, there's a lot of dudes or women at a gym who they are very fit, and those are the least athletic people on the planet. You know what I mean? And vice versa. Yeah. There's some people who are super athletes, and they don't look like athletes, but they're very athletic. So baseball, wrestling, basketball, they all have that in common. You can look the part and not be able to play the part, and vice versa.
I know a lot of guys in pro wrestling that are, don't necessarily have the, physical tools, the size, the shape, the aesthetics, but they got incredible minds for the business, and they make up for a lot of what they lack physically, cerebrally. And baseball is, more than any other sport, a thinking man's game. So, if you have that, if you have that and the gifts that somebody like a Joe Adele has, you're dangerous, like we can, look at the, the Eric Davises and the Ken Griffeys and the Bo Jacksons, those type of guys that just kind of had it all,
If you would have told me Dustin Rhodes would still be wrestling at his age, when he first started, I've been like, nah, he's like a 5-year guy. And the fact that he's reinvented himself, and like you guys said, he's gotten with the times, he's adjusted, he's got the mentality and the skill set to do it all. And he's not jacked. He's never been jacked. But it is what it is.
He has that aptitude, it's in his blood, is in his DNA. Like him and Cody, like Cody does, Cody's the Rhodes that has the physique, Cody is in great shape, but all those guys that this business, pro wrestling, that is in their blood. And Dustin is very, you don't stick around doing this stuff for 30, 35 years, on
accident.
Exactly. Like he's been there and done that. He's worked with the best, and he's gone through the fire and come out on the other side. So, that's, the same way a good veteran player or a good bench coach or a good pitching coach or third base coach or what have you, the same, there's a lot of similarities when you talk about that.
Yeah. Pitchers reinventing themselves, maybe not being that kind of killer instinct starter where they work up on a change up as their velocity goes down, extend their career.
Right. Exactly, man. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit. So, we chit chat back and forth sometimes on Twitter about some big things that have happened in the Angels universe. But I kind of want to talk about that on air with our audience. So we were chit chatting back when Ohtani went to the Dodgers, and you and I had the exact same sentiment. Anybody but the Dodgers is what we were hoping for. There was a while there where people were saying the Blue Jays, and I know your wife's a Blue Jays fan, so you might have been maybe a little happy if he would have ended up there.
My wife,
maybe that could have worked out.
Yeah.
And naturally, he wore a different shade of blue.
Mm-hmm. And, it's like there's this rivalry that exists with Dodgers and Angels fans. And, Dodgers, it's always been going on. And Dodger fans are notoriously, very arrogant and very, very free to talk crap. So it's like that's the one team, I want Ohtani to look, I love what Ohtani did for our franchise, the eyeballs he put on us, and he made the game exciting. And I like Ohtani, but I don't necessarily want him to go there and immediately succeed. It's just going to make the Angels organization look that much more bush league, But I don't want Ohtani to fail either. But that's if he would have landed in Toronto, that would have been great. They're another team. They're like very much underperforming. I liken them to like the Padres. Both teams had like really high expectations, and both teams have really underperformed. But I mean, look at we knew Ohtani had to go, but it was just like, come on, not there.
Yeah. Todd and I have said, for the better part of like 2022, 2023, like, okay, hey, maybe the Angels should think about trading this guy. Yep. We don't think he's going to stick around. Let's get something for him. And then, of course, Arnie Moreno says, no, unfinished business. We're going to hop right back in the saddle. They make some of the worst trades of all time, getting Eduardo Escobar, Randall Grichuk, CJ Cron, which I know we all love CJ Cron, just that didn't work out.
Nope.
And then they got Lucas Giolito. And that trade is going to kill us for years because you gave up Kai Bush, who is doing really well in the organization right now. Edgar Cuero, who's doing just as good in their organization. And now we're sitting here without Giolito and Ronaldo Lopez. And you use the term Bush League. If there was a perfect term to describe Bush League. What about Artie Moreno putting all of his chips in the middle and then saying, actually, wait, is it too late to take them back, and cutting all of those guys?
I mean, exactly. Like, it's like, you saying it, like just laying it out like you did. It's like, wow, that actually happened, and it did.
Yeah.
It all starts at the top. There has to be accountability, with Artie, with Perry. I mean, like, we were all, we might have talked about this in the offseason. We were all, relieved when they, it went out that the Angels are put on the board. They're going to be up for sale. And everybody's like, finally, this is what we want. And then that got taken away from us. So, like, there was one less thing to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, it's weird about this team. Like, you look at the stadium, and this is a very subpar team, and the stadium's packed. Like, there's 30,000 people in the stands this past weekend, and people want to come out. So imagine if the team was playing well. You know what I'm saying? But, like, it seems to me, the knock on Artie is all he cares about is butts in the seats and fans and money, and it's hard to argue, because it's like, what has he done to actually improve the day-to-day and the actual, the actual baseball, that is played on the field? Not a lot, other than that dumbass thing you just laid out, which was poor.
Well, let me ask.
Catch-22. Go ahead, Todd.
I just had a follow up on that to get Frankie's perspective as far as bringing it back to the wrestling world in his industry. So if you see a franchise, or not even a franchise, but a promotion that has done things like the Angels did, where you really don't know about contracts, they got a lot of money, they've got a vision or whatever, you can kind of see it, but then it's like you don't like the way they treat their athletes. Wouldn't that affect your choice, as far as if your manager said, or your agent was like, hey, why don't you check out this brand, but what they've done recently or treated their talent? Wouldn't that make you think twice about signing there?
100%. Yeah. And, and that was a lot of, more negative news in the offseason about how, Anaheim, or Los Angeles, sorry, wasn't a desirable place to go because, like, the facilities are subpar, the way they feed their guys, the way they treat them, the training facilities. And that's another bad look, like, we're a Southern California team where there is money, there is resources. That should not be something that happens. And no, I don't, if I'm a player and, and I see value in myself, I don't want to go to a team that is not, taking its training facilities seriously, or not putting resources into its, into its minor league system. No, I want to go where, I'm treated with the respect I think I deserve. I want to go where the training facilities are modern and upscale, and, and catering is good. I mean, I know that may sound diva-esque, but, like, you attract more flies with honey. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't be, you got to dangle some carrots for these guys. It already is. The team's been in the dumps for a decade. So, on top of that, you hear all this other stuff about, the underbelly of the Angels, and it's who does want to come here? Like, it's they're not doing themselves any favors.
Yeah. Last thing. I'm sorry for now. I just got one more thing on that, because he just hit on a point. But real quick, has it been discouraging, like, to us, hearing the fact that you have all these SoCal free agents that grew up either Angel fans or, like yourself, living close to spring training and being a part of the team or watching the team growing up, and then signing other places to go along with what you just said?
Yeah. I mean, 100%, it's like that, that's what you want. You want the guys that, grew up Angel fans and, like, have always wanted to be an Angel to go there. But, if you're a young player and you're a kid and you grew up and you're an Angels fan, and, maybe it's your dream to become an Angel one day, but then you get into the system and you start to realize, the minutia of how Major League Baseball franchises work. And you see that your dream team, your dream franchise is, kind of pretty poorly run. It would probably, like, break your heart, but go, like, hey, man, I want to be here, but I gotta bet on myself. I gotta invest in a team that's going to invest in themselves. So you can't blame people, for not wanting to play here.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if the what you were alluding to earlier was what C.J. Wilson had come out and said about how this organization like didn't even provide breakfast for spring training. They said, "Hey, go get some Chick-fil-A down the street." What kind of a Mickey Mouse organization that is one of the richest organizations in baseball, may I add, is telling their spring training guys, "Hey, go get Chick-fil-A down the road." And the other thing to keep in mind is back then minor leaguers weren't unionized. Those guys weren't even getting paid during spring training. So it's like you're telling essentially people who have no money to go feed themselves. Guys like Pools and CJ Wilson, those guys don't have to worry about breakfast because they have money. But I mean, may I remind you guys, in 2012, when they made all those big signings and CJ Wilson said all this was happening, Mike Trout was still a nobody. He had his 2011 season, which he played like a month here, did terrible because, that was his true rookie stab at it.
Yep.
What about a guy like that? He still wasn't making the big league bucks.
I equate it to being an independent wrestler. And, you're out there, slugging away at the indies and making towns and just trying to get booked. And then maybe you get signed and picked up. And you walk into, say a WWE or a TNA or an AEW, and there's catering and you're taken care of, and there's trainers, and it's like, wow, oh, this is how it's supposed to be. That's probably what those guys were thinking,
Probably, yeah.
But I mean, look at Major League Baseball has been around longer than any other organization. It's very profitable. The Angels are still a very profitable team in a very desirable area. So to have that, like, go get Chick-fil-A, that's embarrassing. And I question whether like somebody like an Artie Moreno even knows that that's going on, because there's somebody in charge of that department. I don't know what you would, like player personnel or catering, whatever it may be. That person needs to be replaced or do their job better, or more funds need to be allocated to feed these guys. I can't believe we're talking about a big league team. Like this is some minor leagues, and like to your point about minor leaguers, those guys are, like you said, they're making nothing, or at least especially back in the day, making nothing.
Now they unionized, luckily.
Yeah. I mean, those guys were living like 2 to 3 to an apartment and everything.
Absolutely.
People don't understand that. When they see baseball players and, the general public thinks, oh, you're on TV, you're a star, and you're rich. Not how it works. So, it's just another department that they need to do better.
Yeah. I mean, we've had minor leaguers on, and, they were talking about cooking ramen noodles in bathtubs and, putting chicken inside of an air conditioning unit because they didn't have refrigeration. So, there was a time where you are exactly right. It was like wrestling in the indies. But the difference is, if I'm correct, with independent wrestlers, a lot of those guys also have, and gals, have other jobs as well. Yeah. It's not just indie wrestling, because they need to make ends meet. In minor league baseball, you're not allowed to have other jobs. So that $12,000 a year these guys were living off of, that was it. That is your money.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like when I was doing just indies, I was working 3 jobs to support my wrestling habit. I was literally working 3 different jobs in a day to, have money to go out on the weekends. And, whether it be out here when I first started driving all up and down the coast in Cali, or, flying back east, it was, wrestling was not paying the bills, for the first several years of my career. It was, I was getting the reps and I was getting my hours in, but it wasn't paying the bills. But I had things to fall back on that were. These guys are, like you said, they're not even allowed. They're forbidden to have other jobs. So it's just, it's. I mean, how can you expect guys to like perform at their highest level when you're dealt those type of conditions?
Absolutely, it makes you wonder if these guys were even allowed to have other jobs. Forget about getting paid more. Even if, like, hey, you could drive Lyft or something on the side. How many more baseball players we have seen, A, actually make it, and B, maybe some of those guys have gotten even better because, they would have had the proper nutrition, or maybe they could have hired a nutritionist or something else. because like the team provides that stuff to an extent. But,
Yeah.
there's guys like Trout and Otani who had personal nutritionists and personal trainers. You know what I mean? So with that being said, what would the talent level have been throughout our entire childhood if we would have seen guys properly get a chance to come up? Because there has to have been a lot of guys who had the talent. They just didn't have the financial ability. Maybe their families couldn't support them, who had to drop out. So,
Right.
I digress. We could probably talk about that forever. So,
Yeah.
one
Yeah,
more-
the flaws in the minor league system, they're changing it for the better. But yeah, that's I had buddies that were minor league ball players, and they would literally tell me horror stories, man.
Yeah, we've definitely heard some ourselves. So before we get kind of like maybe we can wrap it up with some like fun fantasy type of Angel stuff. I do want to ask one more thing about the offseason. So the Angels didn't make any major splashes this offseason, and that's something we got used to over the last couple years. So you, Frankie Karzarian, the fan, were you kind of happy that they didn't make any giant splashes for once, and they just kind of rolled with these young guys?
I mean, yes and no. I'm all about developing young players, but at the same time, like by not making any major moves, especially in the pitching department, for my knowledge has been bad for again a decade. It just shows a lack of initiative. Give us something. Give your fan base something. Like Angels picked up 2 aces in the offseason and spent a ton of money. You'd be like, wow, okay, they're trying. At the same time, I want them to develop the young guys. But I just want to know that there's, things being done behind the scenes and effort being put in to turn this around. It just seems like they're happy just with the status quo, and they're happy with X amount of fans per season and concessions making X amount of dollars. It really doesn't give us any hope as baseball fans, as fans of this franchise that want to see this franchise succeed. Look we're fans. We've stuck with them this far. We're not going anywhere. You know what I'm saying? We're going to be here. You have a built-in fan base. And again, this team starts winning. You watch that stadium just pack up. But we need something. We need, give us a little something, a little bit of loving, come on, something.
Yeah. Let me last question before Fernando gets into his real quick, if I could. When it comes to ownership, and you bring it up, Artie, Manfred has stepped in a lot when it came to Oakland, when it came to Tampa, the stadium deals. I know those took a long time, but those are sort of a black eye in baseball. And then this year he chose to attack Milwaukee, which, saying, oh, they need, luxury boxes and things of that nature, threatening to move. Is there a rhyme or reason in your mind why he has not gone after Artie with this off the field stuff, with a stadium less than desirable right now? It's in dire need of an upgrade. And then the fact that we claim LA, but we don't spend like an LA market.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me started on that. Again, that's you want to call yourself the Los Angeles Angels to attract more sponsors and to get more eyes on the product, but again, you're not spinning like a Los Angeles team. You're spinning like a small market team. But again, I'm of the belief that you should embrace the Orange County community and Anaheim.
Correct.
People, us, that are from SoCal and that are fans of this franchise. We know that Los Angeles and Orange County could not be, 2 different places, 2 more different places,
different worlds.
Sure. And I don't know if Anaheim isn't like the sexy enough town to go after and try to mandate that there are upgrades. I don't know why that hasn't been done. And, it's, again, it just add that to the list of frustrations. It's just another reason for us as Angels fans to throw our hands up in the air and kind of shake our heads and go, I don't get it.
Yep.
The only thing I can figure is maybe because if you go up to a baseball fan on the East Coast and you're like, where is Anaheim? They wouldn't be able to tell you. That's the only thing I could think of. But, the solution to that, they were the California Angels. I mean, how many casual baseball fans know that the Texas Rangers play in Arlington? That's why they're the Texas Rangers. You know what I mean?
But on the flip side of that, everybody knows what Disneyland is.
Yeah,
Correct.
that's
And,
fair.
and a lot of people know where Disneyland is. They may not know geographically where Anaheim is in the whole, region
Yeah,
of
if you show them a
California
map and you're like,
or
point at
SoCal.
Anaheim.
But it's like, yeah, Anaheim, that's where Disney is. So like we have that. So it's not like
No,
we're,
absolutely.
it's not like we're, the Timbuktu Angels. People know, where we are, but they've never really gone out of their way to really embrace that, like that part of the community, that like the Orange County, the Anaheim, that, and really bring that to the forefront. They're more concerned about hitching their wagon to Los Angeles, which we're not anywhere near, not in the same county, miles away, especially with traffic. It's hours away.
Absolutely.
It's just, yeah. I mean, dude, I loved the California Angels was a cool name. And when
Yep.
they switched to Anaheim, I
Love
loved
that.
that. I was like, Anaheim Angels, that's great. It sounds good. Like Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim is brutal.
Yeah, I love. Don't get me wrong. I like the City Connects, but they are lacking an orange or Orange County logo, something to signify where it came from. I did not like the Los Angeles patch.
Oh,
I mean, yeah, like embrace that, like that beach culture, that like this, it's an untapped market. You're just missing out. There's somebody in the Angels marketing department, and it's like, I don't understand what they're trying to attract. Like we were lucky when we had Otani because we had, a lot of businesses, a lot of like Asian businesses, a lot, like, Namco, and a lot of like, Nippon Airways or one of the airlines in Japan. We had a lot that brought a lot of eyes, but
absolutely.
he went away. So did those, those relationships. So,
You mean
we
you're
think that, I think it's almost like a team right now that really needs to find its identity.
correct? You're not psyched for Christmas in June?
No, not really. I took my son to one of the Star Wars nights. That's cool to get the Mandalorian rally monkey, and
There you go.
that's cool. But they also got creamed that night, like 13-3 or something like that.
Yeah.
It makes me long for the days of, when we were under, the ownership of Disney and the Autries. It's like that seemed like more like it was more of a community and people that cared about the organization and bringing the community together. That I think has been lost in the Artie Marino era.
Absolutely.
True.
Nothing's better than dragging your family, or for me, I flew my girlfriend and I out to Anaheim, went to Disneyland. But before that, I was like, hey, we got to go to an Angels game. She was like, sure. And they got cream pied that night, too. It was like 11-1.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Even as poorly as the Angels are playing this year, I still enjoy going to games.
Yeah.
There's just something about, when you walk into that stadium, like it still is aesthetically really cool looking. And, it's like, oh, I'm at a baseball game. I'm at an Angel game. There's Angel fans here. I'm excited. By the fourth or fifth inning, I'm ready to, pack it in and go home. But like, I still like going to baseball games. That's the thing. And again, not to keep going back to this, but God, imagine this team starts performing well. You're going to fill those stands. You're going to get people excited. People are like chomping at the bit for this team to do something.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, I don't even think they need to be good. We just need to see the young guys take a progression, or to progress. But really, we need the organization to be honest. You know what I mean? Call a piece of shit. Hey, we're rebuilding. You know what? A lot of Angels fans would be excited about a rebuild where we currently are. Maybe in like 2015 or 2016, because we just had a playoff appearance. If they're like, hey, we're rebuilding, we would have been pissed. But now it's like, it makes sense.
Sure.
Trade some of these guys who have value. I can live with Perry and Artie coming out and being like, you know what, guys? It's going to suck. We're going to suck for 2 or 3 years. But I promise better days are ahead. I can live with that as a fan. But just call it what it is. We can live with it. Be honest.
There's no better example right now in baseball than the Baltimore Orioles.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
What, like they were
lost seasons.
Yeah, they were where they were rotten. They were where we are, but like
Absolutely.
worse. They were like notoriously bad, and they are not only playing. They not only had a great season last year. They're playing well this year, and they're going to be in the mix. Barring any major injuries, they're going to be in the mix for the next 3 to 5 seasons, maybe longer. So like how can you not look at that as the template of, oh, maybe we need to do something like this?
I think the only thing that might make people scared, I mean, your wife's a Blue Jays fan. Look what happened with them, right? They got Vlad Jr., they got Bochette, and then they got Kevin Biggio. Kevin Biggio was just DFA, so he didn't work out, and he was supposed to be a big piece of that puzzle. Guerrero's been good, but not great. And then, Bo Bichette's been pretty good, but they haven't had much success. So that's like the only thing that maybe might make some people scared. But
yeah, I can see that. Did you guys hear that Biggio's going to the Dodgers?
Dodgers, yes, I did see that.
No.
Of course. And Biggio's low key, like, good. Like we watch. My wife has the Blue Jays package, so we watch those games as well. Because it's good to watch a team that I, have a small investment in, but like I'm not, if the Blue Jays lose, I don't get pissed off like I do when the Angels lose. Yeah. But watching Kevin Biggio, over the last several seasons, he's used as a utility guy, but he's another one. I don't understand why they don't like play him more because he's consistently pretty good. But yeah, no, you're right. The Blue Jays have underperformed. I don't know. The last place I wanted him to end up is the Dodgers because they have a knack for guys just showing up there and playing lights out ball. And I hope for him he does that, but that's yet to be determined, I guess.
Yeah, just like the potentially Shohei going to the Blue Jays, Kevin Biggio is not going to wear the wrong shade of blue. So
yeah.
All right, so in as we start to close here, I want to ask you some more, fantasy kind of questions. So, let's pretend that Frankie Karzarian just got hired to be the new general manager of this mythical baseball expansion team. Okay, Rob Manfred, your good buddy, said that you get to pick any one starting pitcher and any one position player, no limit. Who are you picking to start your franchise to pitch and your lineup?
I mean, God, it's got to be the pitcher. You got to look at someone like a Garrett Cole, like a big name that's maybe available, a guy that's an ace, somebody that could at least, I think with pitching, high tide raises all ships. And you bring in a guy like that, other guys will play up to his level. Other pitchers, other guys on the staff will, also start performing. I've seen that in baseball before. So somebody like him, I don't know if it's necessarily him, but somebody like him. God, and position players, I mean, I don't know if I could pinpoint just one. We had the two most exciting studs of the last two once in a generational players, on our team. And, we've somehow managed, for those guys to play on losing squads. So like, I don't even know if it's going to be that one, that one guy that sparks this. I really think that we have to reinvest in our farm system. Again, like I said, if I was in charge, I would take what knowledge I have and I would also surround myself with the best baseball minds that I could possibly collect, the same way as if I opened a wrestling company. I never will. But if I did, I have a general degree of knowledge in pro wrestling. I know a little bit about everything that goes on, but I would surround myself with 5 or 6 geniuses, guys that have been there and done that. And, take a look at all aspects of our franchise and address the problems, by prioritizing what we need.
Yeah. I mean, having a talented, having 2 talented guys like Ohtani and Trout and not surrounding them with the other just average players. I mean,
even pitching. Yeah.
Because the thing is, and we have a guy who's part of our staff. His name is Andrew. He's not an Angels fan; he's a Padres fan. So he kind of calls us on a lot of our BS. He's a big stats guy, and he's told us like all the Angels need is replacement level players during those Ohtani Trout days. Literally, guys who were worth 0 WAR, and they literally would have made the playoffs like 3 out of those 5 years. So that's like the equivalent of having a stacked wrestling promotion. You have a prime AJ Styles, a prime Cody Rhodes, John Cena. You have these big name guys, but you have horrendous writing. You know what I mean? There's no writing at all. You have John Cena going out there, unprepared. it doesn't matter what your talent is if you don't surround them with other complementary pieces.
I mean, I couldn't agree more, man. That's it. You have your stars, and then, like you said, in the middle, you have your guys that may not be the big name guys, but they're out there every day and they're the workhorses and they're getting it done with consistency. You don't have these guys with these low 160 and 180 averages. Baseball is the ultimate team sport. And, we've proved that Trout can't do it himself. Ohtani can't do it himself. Absolutely. You look at that squad in the O2 squad, yes, you had your Garrett Andersons and your Salmons, you also, your Ecksteins, your Erstads, you do just these guys that weren't necessarily like superstars, but collectively, as a team, they made magic. It's like a band, like my favorite band is Metallica. And they always say this, they always say, we're 4 okay musicians, but when we get together, we're Metallica and something happens. So that's the same dynamic you need, I think, on a baseball squad. You need that. You need your lead guitarist that shreds. You need your badass drummer that's in the pocket. You need your bass player that's holding it down. You need your rhythm guitarist that's just the steady metronome of the whole thing. That's the same thing you need in baseball. It's no different other than, we're using balls and bats and not amps and guitars.
And so last one I have for you. So you and I chit-chat a little bit after the Ron Washington hiring. You have said that you were a fan of Ron Washington. You were a fan of the hiring. So now that we're, roughly 2 months into the season, where are you on that now? Do you still like Ron? Is he still the guy for the job?
My mom is also a big diehard Angel fan, bless her heart. So we vent to each other, a lot. And she was talking to him, but I just don't think Ron's the guy. And, I was like, well, I don't know. I can't tell because, you play the cards you're dealt.
Yep.
And if Ron Washington's been playing poker this season, he's gotten a bunch of really shitty hands. And then, and that's not, I'm not saying that to be detrimental to the talent on the team. I'm talking injuries. I'm talking, look at, I have my own opinions on Rendon. And at the start of the season, I was like, here we go. But then he started to get that pop back, and he's a great third baseman. And he started to show some, signs of that guy from Washington. That was the MVP. And then he gets hurt. And then Trout gets hurt. And that's a death blow, Ron Washington is, we're as fans just frustrated marks dealing with this. He's the guy, captaining the ship. And he has to try to make, something chicken salad out of chicken shit. And it's very difficult to do. So, I'm still a Ron Washington fan. But look at, I can question a lot of his decisions. There was a game, probably a month ago now where, you guys probably remember better. God, we had almost like a bases loaded or a second and third situation. And the thing would have been to do was to bunt.
Mm-hmm.
Get the runner in, and I don't know who they sent up there. They sent
someone in Yormy.
Yeah, that might have been it. Yeah, and it was
might
just
have been
like
in Texas.
Yeah, I think that was it, and it was just like such a missed opportunity, and that that's leadership and management and coaching. You got to point your finger at in that certain situation, you got to point your finger at the guy that has the pencil.
Oh, are you talking about the game where Zach Neto was stealing home or whatever? They were trying to do a squeeze.
And the suicide squeeze. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just was. It was like little league level. I've seen my son's team, pulled off better, better decisions. Yeah, things like that. And it's like, but look at the same time, I can also appreciate taking risks.
Absolutely,
trying to make something happen.
Sometimes you have to make your own offense, and you're a genius or a jackass. That's just kind of how it works. I don't mind being aggressive and it not working out if your team just isn't producing offensively that day, that week, because that stuff happens in baseball, right? And there's some times where you have to make your own wins, you have to make your own runs, and that's the beauty in baseball. It's not like football. In football, your quarterback needs to, get up free enough time for someone to get open. In baseball, it doesn't work like that. Sometimes you guys just aren't collectively seeing the ball. Sometimes one guy carries a team for a series, whatever the case is. But in baseball, like that's what makes the sport. And we just haven't really had that the last decade. We haven't been able to string those kind of wins together, those kind of moments together.
No, and not to keep going back to the 2002 team, but like,
You're living in the past, Frankie.
I know. Yeah, I know. Well, it's all I got, man. But like, even when Social was hired, and you guys remember, the term small ball.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Get him on, get him over, get him in. And, that was his approach. And I'll be damned if that didn't work. I remember like the days of like, the Eric Ibars and the Sean Figgins and guys like that just consistently would get on base. Just, they weren't hitting for power. They're high 200 hitters, but they're getting base hits. They're getting doubles. They're stealing bases. They're making things happen. That worked. We just don't have, we're not taking that type of approach, or we don't have the personnel that can necessarily, perform those tasks.
Absolutely. And the biggest problem is nowadays they don't want that type of baseball to work anymore because they're like, oh, analytics, it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. Again, we can do a whole podcast on analytics and its effect on the game, whether you think positively or negatively. It's like, baseball is still, it's still played by human beings. It's not played by machines and numbers. There's still human beings out there. And like, I think we've lost a lot of that, not just the Angels. I'm talking the game in general, in the last, 10, 15 years.
Yeah, they keep trying to reinvent the wheel when it's perfectly fine. You can't just, there's certain things you could change, but there's also certain things you shouldn't change.
I couldn't agree more.
But I have a question, Frankie. What is that cigar that you are so much enjoying throughout this podcast you got?
So this one it just went out on me because I got a little wind here. This is one of my cigars. I have my own cigar company. Me and Cody Rhodes are co-owners, along with our partner Sam Lucia, who owns Stogie Bird, which is the best cigar distribution company in the country. It's an American Rebel cigar. We have several different blends, a lot of different varieties, and I'm a big cigar guy. So I'm usually out here watching the games, having a cigar, either an American Rebel or, something else. My humidor is always full.
What's your favorite blend?
Oh man, like the American Rebel, I like. We have one called it's commonly referred to as a barber pole cigar. It's like a Colombian and a Nicaraguan wrapper. It looks like a barber pole, and you get a lot of most of your taste in a cigar. You get from the wrapper, which is the outside of it, and the binder, which holds the tobacco inside. So, I usually like a lighter, mild to medium bodied cigar. Every once in a while I get in the mood for something a little bit heavier.
Nice.
American Rebel cigars. If anyone's interested, check out stogiebird.com and just put in American Rebel, and all of our products will come up and you can check them out for yourself.
Sweet. We'll post that in the notes as well.
Cool. Thank you, man. Thank you.
Anything else, Frankie, while you're here? Anywhere our audience can find you? Anything you want to tell them?
I mean, you guys want to follow me on my socials, or Frankie Karzarian on Twitter and Frankie Karzarian official on Instagram. And I don't really talk a whole lot about wrestling. I'll post where I'm going to be and everything, of course, but I'm usually bitching about the Angels, or I'm talking about cigars, the Angels, or rock and roll. And I like to be engaged. I like to really, especially when fans talk to me about baseball and things outside of wrestling. Look, I love what I do. I'm blessed to do it, but I talk about wrestling all the time. So it's really refreshing to like come and chat with you guys about, something else I'm passionate about, and that's Angels baseball. I'm pretty vocal on there, sometimes probably too vocal. I can't tell you how many times I've sat and, watched, someone blow a save and drafted up a tweet and not hit send because I'm like, oh man, I'm not doing my team any favors. I'm just a frustrated fan. But that's part of the fun of being a fan. That's kind of our God-given right to bitch and moan, and then to throw our hands in the air and jump up and down when we win.
Well, and the last thing I got for you, Frankie, is I know the frustration, I know the feeling, and we're all waiting as Angels fans for it to flip the script and for us to be on the winning side again. I know as passionate as we are when they're losing, the euphoria we will feel when they're back on top again.
100%, man. And again, like, I remember going to games in that mid 2000 era, like, post '02 for that whole like 10-year span. And God, that stadium was packed. There was such a vibe and an energy. And like, the Angels were just always competitive. Like I said, they were always in the mix. And, that breeds like just a different type of energy like that. That's a special stadium when you got it packed and loud and with a lot of fans that are having fun and watching a successful team. It's like no other place. And, I just want that back.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely weird. And I haven't been out there this year, obviously living in Texas, it's a little harder now, but the last couple years, even last year, I mean, we still had Ohtani. There were still those expectations, but near August and September, as we started to leave contention, and the air just leaves the stadium, and it just feels so deflated. It's definitely a much different feeling than it was, and 2009, where people thought we were World Series bound.
I told my wife, because again, like I told you guys, I didn't have any high expectations. I just wanted them to be somewhat competitive. And I was telling her the other day, I was like, man, I feel like it's already August.
Yeah,
because around that time, yes, I'm still watching, but I'm I have the game on. I'm not necessarily watching. I'm not.
You might be doing something else.
Yeah, exactly. And it just because the interest level, it's like, because at that point, I've already invested 6 months of my time, and and I've gotten no rewards. I've got no return to my investment. And there's nothing more frustrating than sitting here and putting 2.5, 3 hours into something just to watch them blow it with bad pitching. It's just like we're used to it at this point, but I'm so tired of that. So I'm like, that was 3 hours of my life I could have been doing yard work. I could have been getting some office work done. I could have been doing something, but again,
it's bad if you'd rather do yard work.
Yeah, that's just it. Yeah. That's our lot in life, man. Like I said, I bitch and complain and moan, but look, dude, I'm a fan. I love this team. I've loved this team since, outside of the Los Angeles Rams, who I've stuck with, this is my, I'm not a big basketball guy. I'm a huge baseball guy, so I followed the Angels literally since 1985. I'm 46 years old, since I was, a 7-year-old kid, 8-year-old kid. So, I'm invested. I'm here for better or for worse. I just, I'm really, really hoping for, those good times ahead, that we all talk about. I don't know if you guys, I got the game on right now and we're doing okay. So
that's not bad.
Yeah. Neto got a homer. We're up 2-0 where we currently sit. So
I bet you Frankie's like, the next time Suarez pitches, I'm checking with a wife about the honeydew list.
I can't.
Yeah.
Man, there's a couple. Yeah, there's a couple between him and anytime they would bring Herget in, I think they sent him back down. But God, they kept bringing that guy back up, and I never saw him pitch well.
Isn't he a Brave now?
Yeah, oh, is he good? Good.
Yeah, he's a Brave now.
Good. Yeah. But again, that's just me being a frustrated Mark, a frustrated fan. Again, I can talk crap about this team but I'm going to be here every year without fail. Every game, I'm still going to go to games. I'm still going to enjoy watching them. I want to enjoy watching them win.
Absolutely.
Well, we know you're a fan because, this is the third time we've had you on. We've had you on once a year now. And coincidentally, when this comes out tomorrow, it'll be our podcast's 4th year anniversary. So,
cool. Right on.
You've been around for a while, so people know you're a real fan. You're not one of those people who are like, "Oh, I like the Angels." No, and
it's cool, man. It's cool because I get, I get the more of these type of shows I do, and doing your guys' show, I get people that like, "Oh, I didn't know you're an Angel fan," and then people will kind of start a dialogue, and again, that's cool. I could talk baseball all day, so it's just cool to have conversations about the team with, like-minded, because look, we're all just dudes that are fans at the end of the day. We all have that in common. We all share the same, frustrations. And like you said, we all share the same elation. So, I'm just a guy that's a diehard Angel fan, and I always will be. And I want this team to do well. And I think that they can. I got a life sentence with this team, so it's there's no getting rid of me. Can't turn it off.
Yeah, well, now we just need to get you to throw out the first pitch. I know you said that's something you want to do. I just reached out to somebody during the interview, so we'll see. I'll see what
cool,
magic
yeah.
I can try to work out for you.
Yeah, I've reached out. When I was in AEW, I had somebody reach out, and I've had our PR guy. I don't know if he has reached out, but I told him that was something I was very interested in doing, just because as a kid that grew up going to that stadium to be on the field and throw out the first pitch, that's I don't have a lot of bucket list things left. That would be super cool. I've gotten to throw out a first pitch at a couple minor league games, Inland Empire 66ers here and stuff, which is super cool. But got to do that on that stadium, that'd
be the dream, right?
That's awesome.
And at this point, I mean, our pitching staff so bad, fuck it, just put Frankie in the pitch during the game.
I think I could, I think I could get through an inning, probably about as good as Suarez could,
There you go.
I know one thing. He's already got the best entrance out of every pitcher.
That's it. That's it. Yeah. At least I got some at least what I lack in pitching skill, I could bring, charisma and some swagger. But
there you go.
Yeah. When Frankie gets a strikeout, he's going to do the Dragon Ball Z thing, like Carlos Estevez.
Yeah. Oh, let's not kid anybody. I would get shelled. I would be. Oh man, I'd get shelled. I'd be pulled after a third of an inning. But no, that would be super cool, man. Like I've gotten the opportunity through the different wrestling organizations I worked in to go to, when we were in Philadelphia, the Phillies invited us and we got to tour their stadium and their locker rooms and where they keep the trophies and everything. That's super cool. I'd love to do that. And, I haven't done that in Angel Stadium. I'd love to do that, just to be on that field and just be a cool full circle moment for me, who's, went to that stadium for the first time in probably 1986, would just be very, very cool.
Well, if anyone's listening from the Angels, Frankie Karzarian wants to throw out the first pitch. He's a big Angels guy. He loves Artie Moreno.
Big fan.
Absolutely everything.
Big fan.
All right.
Yep.
Well, Frankie, thank you again for doing this. We really appreciate your willingness to do this. And like you said, we love you just being a dude and talking Angels baseball.
Yeah. Same. I appreciate it, man. It's always good to chat with you guys. Anytime you need me back, let's hope maybe, we can maybe do this again towards the end of the season. We could be talking about how they turn things around and, finished second or third in the AL West. I don't know. Let's be optimistic about it.
We finished 12 games out of first place, but we were in third place.
Yeah, exactly.
On behalf of all of us here at Halos in the Infield, thanks again for joining us. Have a great day, everybody.